Why does your real estate team stand a better chance of failing than you did when you started in this industry? Figuring out what does your real estate team look like early on is probably the best advice I could go back and give to the past me, right? So I didn't necessarily know what I wanted out of a team. I knew I wanted to mentor agents. I knew I cared for people and really wanted to share my knowledge, my experience with other people and to watch and to help them grow. That's all I knew at the time. And I think that's true for a lot of you is you either have teams or you aspire to maybe build a team one day. And that's probably a lot of what's on your heart. But figuring out how to do that successfully, that's a different part. If I could give any advice, it would be to figure out early on, even without team members yet, because at that point, it starts to get too late. I can promise you this. I teach out of failure, things that I have done wrong in the past. And I promise you, it is so much harder to go back and redo things once you already have a team than it would be for you to strategize and start it the right way. Now, certainly there are going to be some shifts that need to take place, and you can never plan out the road completely. But if I can teach you any one thing, that would be to start with a firm foundation. Start with what does your model look like? Give it some thought. How are you going to pay? What are you going to provide? And what are you going to expect? Get these things on paper. I don't care if you are the only person on your team right now. Starting by hiring team members or showing agents or assistants, that is going to land you further down the road and having to circle back around to put some of these things together. So if you can start by laying out the infrastructure and what does your team look like? What are going to be your expectations? You can build the team around that. There are multiple models. I cannot tell you what's going to work for you. There's all different kinds of models. There are teams where the team leader wants to do all of the selling and, sometimes they have paid, salaried support staff around them who basically support them while their name goes on 200 transactions. That's great. That's not my model. That's not the way I wanted to do it. I don't really want my name on the transactions. I still enjoy selling, so I'm always going to sell a few homes, but I don't want my name on 200 transactions. For me, my model is to lift agents up. I want to bring agents in, teach them what I know, teach them the conversion side, teach them how to work their own sphere, and lift them up as I fade into the shadows. That's my particular model. But there's all kinds of different ways to do it. I do highly recommend that you start there, figuring out what is your team going to look like. And if you're already a little too far down that road, it's never too late. You don't have to, so to speak, throw the baby out with the bathwater. You don't have to blow the team up. I've seen that too many times and start it all over again. But you'll know what I'm talking about when I say that it is so much harder to back up and rethink things once you're a little too far down the road. It can be done, but it takes a little more effort. So I would really start with that support staff. I do think that's something taught by some firms and some books out there. I do think that is a good idea to start with some support staff. And then depending on where your model wants to go from there, it's really just going to depend on what your model looks like is going to depend on what you envision for your agents and where do you want them to be. Are you going to be selling a ton of houses or do you want to empower them to do that? There are some teams that only allow a few agents to do the listings. For me, there is a training period, but I want my agents, I want them doing everything. I want them selling homes. We're in a system, or I am in a system where we have a network, or some call it a downline, where it behooves me to train agents up, to empower them to go on their own, start their own teams, let me coach them and build them up. That really is an amazing benefit for both me and for them. And so it really just depends on what your long-term strategy and goals are. But the number one thing, if I could circle back around, is really just to make sure that you have those things in place early. It can get very confusing if you don't have a firm foundation.